This is William K. Murtaugh, Witness 1. And today, I would like to do something a little bit different. You're going to notice a difference in the way my presentation is going to be today. Because what I'm going to do is I am going to put up entirely the Rogues Gallery that was put out by the FBI today. The Rogues Gallery of those individuals who were responsible for the violence and mayhem that occurred at the Capitol while the government was trying to do the business of the people and trying to complete the count of the Electoral College. Now, what a lot of people may not know yet, but a lot of people are starting to learn, is that a law enforcement officer died in that mayhem. He succumbed to injuries he received when some thug killed him with a fire extinguisher, murdered him, executed him. Now, this is the murder of a law enforcement officer, a federal law enforcement officer. I don't think of it. It dawned on these idiots that they were on federal property, not state property, not city property. They were on federal land in a government building. And that government building was being protected by the Capitol Police. And the Capitol Police is a federal police agency. Their sole responsibility is law enforcement in the Capitol and on Capitol property. Period. They are not security guards. They are sworn officers of the law. They have the power to arrest people. They are authorized to use deadly force if necessary to protect themselves or others or property. And that officer died doing his job. He died in the line of duty. And the people that you see on the screen right now are responsible. Now, I'm not saying that one of these individuals actually is the one who took the fire extinguisher and killed that officer, but that officer was murdered in the commission of a felony. And in certain circumstances, if you are inside the U.S. Capitol and you are engaging in acts of violence, destruction of government property, chasing police officers up the stairs, and engaging in other mayhem, you are an accessory to murder. Just like if you were a driver of a car in a bank robbery, and all you were doing is sitting out in front of a building, and one of your patriots is inside the bank robbing, and he kills somebody in the process. You are just as culpable for that murder as the man who pulled the trigger. And the same goes here. Now, it is more likely that those who organized and led this attempted coup are going to face a whole host of charges. And these charges, at a minimum, could get these people locked up for a decade. Because there's something rather ironic about all this. These people storming these offices, destroying paperwork, playing around with somebody's telephone, sitting in Nancy's chair, ransacking the offices of the Capitol Parliamentarian don't realize their beloved President Trump pushed for and signed a law that can get these people 10 years in prison at a minimum. No negotiation, no plea bargain, nothing. You are convicted, you go to jail for 10 years. Thanks to your President Trump. The guy that you look up to, the guy that you cherish, is going to put you in jail for 10 years. Now, the original intent of the law was to protect statues, mainly Confederate statues, Confederate monuments, but the language is so broad that it includes the United States Capitol. It is a monument. It's designated as such. Look up the law. And there are statues in there. There is artwork in there. There's all kinds of things in that Capitol worth billions of dollars. Irreplaceable antiques. And these people were ransacking this building like it was an old abandoned house in the country somewhere. And because of their actions, 5 people lost their lives. One was a federal law enforcement officer. The other who lost her life was a woman who thought it would be a bright idea to climb through the window of a locked door, engaging in an act of burglary. And she paid with her life for this stunt. You gotta remember something, folks. The minute these people stormed the Capitol, breached the Capitol, they were engaging in burglary. Unlawful occupation of an occupied building. That's burglary. Burglary, first degree burglary. Criminal trespass with intent. Trespass with criminal intent. Destruction of government property. Theft of government property. Violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act because they were tampering with that telephone, which is government property. All kinds of things were going on there. Federal prosecutors are going to have a field day. And they're going to have to throw the book at these people because the pressure's on. The public at large is angry. And Congress is angry. This is their house that was violated. I don't know if any of you have ever had your house burglarized. To come home thinking that all your stuff is safe and secure, to find that somebody has thrown stuff on the floor, broken your windows, stolen your VCR, your TV set, maybe videos that had memories on it that you'll never be able to get back again. This is the kind of thing that happened at the Capitol. This wasn't some game. This wasn't a joke. This is serious business. And these people are going to pay, and they're going to pay dearly. And in the midst of all this, there's QAnon. Now, QAnon doesn't even have the courage to stand up for what they did. In spite of the fact there's people running around with Q flags, Q t-shirts, Q this, Q that, all the systems, all the symbols of QAnon were there for everybody to see. It was abundantly clear that this was a QAnon operation. And those groups that support QAnon. And yet they tried to blame Antifa. The very people that they're against, they tried to blame for this fiasco. They don't even have the courage to take responsibility for their own actions. They want to blame somebody else. Seems to be a lot of that going on. There's a blogger up in Minnesota, if he's still alive, that does the same thing. He doesn't take any responsibility for his actions. None. He blames everybody else. He brags that he's this, that, and the other thing, and he's a big fat nothing. And neither he nor those that surround him has said one thing about the policeman that was murdered in this melee. Not one thing. All you see when you go to their Twitter accounts, their BitChute accounts, their blogs, are conspiracy theories. Blaming Antifa. Blame somebody else. Don't take responsibility for your own actions. There's a Q member standing on a balcony that she had no business being at, blaming Antifa. It's kind of hard to blame Antifa when you're the one standing there on property that you're not supposed to be in. You went around a barrier to be there. Now, there was a huge failure on the part of somebody that allowed this melee to happen in the first place. Responsibility goes directly to the Capitol Police. They are the ones in charge of security at that building. And there is talk that there is possibly a fifth column that was responsible for this. Officers for this very agency that allowed these people through. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'll say this. If those officers allowed this group in because they supported them, they supported the murder of their fellow police officer. I hope that sinks in to people. That if any law enforcement officer let those protesters in that building without so much as the slightest effort to keep them out, then they supported the murder of their fellow law enforcement officer. And that goes for members of the military that use their credentials to get into that building illegally, and off-duty cops. You supported the murder of a law enforcement officer by entering that building illegally. There's no excuse. You knew the purpose of that riot. You knew the reasons these people wanted in that building. And if you took part in it, you supported the murder of a law enforcement officer and those other people that died. If it had been a bank robbery, a burglary in a private residence, the rule would apply that you would be equally responsible under the law. And certainly, those individuals who are being displayed by the FBI are responsible. The FBI wants these people. The FBI does not put out wanted posters lightly. They don't put out wanted posters for the equivalent of a parking ticket. We are not talking about misdemeanors where you pay a fine and that's the end of it. If you are found and if you are convicted, you are going to prison for a long time. And if they apply at a minimum Trump's law regarding monuments, you're looking at 10 years in prison each. And that's before all the other charges that are out there. And when you're in the federal court arena, you're in a whole new ballgame. Because the sentencing guidelines for federal crimes is completely different. There's very little, if any, discretion in sentencing and what the judge can consider when charging these people, when adjudicating these people guilty. And the same goes for the jury instructions. The juries are going to be told point blank, you're in the big leagues, folks. You have to go by federal rules when deliberating the guilt of these individuals. That things are a little bit tighter in the federal court system. The leeway's not there that would be in other courts for lesser crimes. And what's going to be in the back of the minds of these jurors, who will be people from what we consider the Beltway, it is this monumental destruction that took place, and the fact that it was a law enforcement officer who died trying to protect this building from a bunch of thugs, a bunch of hooligans, and a bunch of traitors to this country. This was an act of sedition. It was an act of insurrection. And personally, I think these people should be charged with treason, because they went to war against the United States of America. This was a civil war. There's statements out there by QAnon and other groups that stated that they were going to be in a civil war. That's treason. It's an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And I certainly hope that the federal government, the Department of Justice, throws the book at these people. And I certainly hope that there's going to finally be a crackdown on these organizations like Q, like the PPTF, and so on, and enforce the laws that they're breaking. These people are breaking the law. They're saying that they're working for the United States government, that they're responsible for bringing down Epstein. They're responsible for this, that, and the other thing. They are not. They are frauds. They are a bunch of people sitting around in a living room or in a car making up fairy tales. They're frauds. They're got GoFundMe accounts to beg in their fake efforts. That's wire fraud. These are convictable crimes. You know, there is possible evidence that the writings of the conspiracy theorist, whose name appears on a blog, was used by the Nashville bomber as an excuse to carry out his action of blowing himself to kingdom come and taking out temporarily the communications in the state of Tennessee and part of Kentucky. This act of domestic terrorism can be directly tied, allegedly, to this blogger. And there's death surrounds these people. There's a woman in jail right now who is going on trial for the murder of someone she considered a close friend, of someone she thought was going to help her get her children back. And allegedly, she found out that wasn't going to happen, and he was actively doing just the opposite. He was actively preventing her from getting her children back. And so she got mad at him and she murdered him. And so now she's on trial, probably going to spend the rest of her life in jail, all because she got involved with this same group. These QAnons, these fake people that go around saying that they are what they are not and can do what they cannot. And this all culminated in what happened in the U.S. Capitol today. May not have been these same people that were storming around in that building, but it was what they believe in that was in that building. One of their compatriots was on the balcony of the building shooting a video saying, "Look where I am. I'm sitting here actively watching the overthrow of our government." The intent of these individuals were to find the electoral votes that represented the will of the people and burn them, Destroy them. Destroy the evidence. So that we would probably have to do this all over again. And maybe their guy would win this time around. But that wouldn't have happened. Because like I said in my previous video, there's duplicates. Every state in the United States has a backup copy. Signed, sealed, delivered, notarized, witnessed, the whole 9 yards. They have everything. So in the event there's a problem like what happened at the Capitol, they can say, hey, here's our backup copy. Certified copy. And this would all have been a wasted effort. And I guarantee you one thing, if there had been a new election, if this group had succeeded, it said, all right, we'll do this all over again. We'll have a do-over. We'll have a special election just for the President of the United States. People would have been so mad, so incensed, he would clearly have lost. Because people are mad. Not only people that did not vote for him, but an increasing number of people that did. There are people that wish they could change their minds right now and vote for Joe Biden. I personally talked to at least a dozen people that if they had the chance, they would change their votes to Biden. Because they are so angry at what they saw at the U.S. Capitol. These are military veterans. These are people that serve in government that are angry what they saw. I'd say they will never ever vote for a Republican again because of what they saw. And now even Trump's most staunch supporters, Ted Cruz, other people, are calling for him to knock it off. Now he threw a little temper tantrum today and said, I'm not going. I'm not going to the party. I'm not going to go to Joe Biden's inaugural. And I said, so what? Who wants you there? Nobody wants you there. Because you probably cause trouble anyway. Because you show up, a bunch of your hooligans are going to show up, and we're going to have the same problem all over again. And this time, somebody probably gets shot. Because now you're dealing with the Secret Service, and the Secret Service doesn't fool around. You start chasing the Secret Service up a staircase, you're going to wind up dead. Because they don't back away from a fight. They're going to turn, they're going to pull out that little Uzi they got underneath their shirt, and they're going to say, are you going to stop now, or are we going to end this the hard way? And that guy with the Q shirt wouldn't be so brave. He wasn't too brave when all of a sudden reinforcement showed up. He calmed down real quick because he knew he was in deep crap. And he was damn lucky he didn't walk away from there in bracelets. As far as I know, the guy's at work today doing his masonry thing. But not for long. There's a warrant out for his arrest. The FBI is going to come calling. He's going to win a free trip back to Washington, but it ain't going to be to sit in the House gallery or the Senate gallery or sit in Nancy Pelosi's chair. It's going to sit in a nice cold cell with no windows, staring at his fellow hooligans in the cell across from him. Or maybe even room up with one. Put two or four to a cell. And let these guys talk the good times. Say, oh boy, wasn't that a lot of fun? Sitting in Nancy's chair, taking her plaque off the door. We might get 10 years in prison for it, but it was a lot of fun. Now, I love these guys that are married. You think the wives are going to wait around 10 years for you to come out? These 20, 30-year-old women in the prime of their physical life, they're going to wait around for some guy that's not going to be able to put food on the table. They're going to go find somebody else. In modern times, it's, you don't have these women that wait for their man and they're pure and all this stuff for 10 years. No, they want to do what they were doing. They want to party. They want to, they want someone to have and to hold, to love and to cherish and all that. So there's going to be a lot of divorces come out of this little thing when people start going off to prison. You know, there's not going to be this waiting around. Because, you know, you see it all the time. This isn't like the old-fashioned days where couples stuck together through thick and thin. At least a little bit happens with some of these people, especially the kind of people that go protesting at government buildings, is they break up. And the only reason I bring this up is because this is a cost. This is a price you pay for a decision that you made. I saw a video clip of a guy at his front door, and he basically said, I fucked up. I made a decision I now regret. It's funny how these guys regret what they do after they do it, instead of thinking maybe I shouldn't do that because I might regret it. They kind of put the cart before the horse. You know, if you sit there and regret that you did something, maybe you should have thought about not doing it in the first place. Maybe this should be a lesson to other people out there that might be tempted to pull a stunt like this, to say maybe this is not such a good idea. Is there a bunch of hooligans out there right now who want to do the same thing again? They want to go over there on the 19th and the 20th and pull some kind of stunt, and they think it's going to be a neat idea. They think that maybe they can stop all this. And what's going to wind up happening, they're either going to wind up in jail or they're going to wind up dead. Because now people have woken up and said, hey, we got to take this shit seriously. Security's got to be stepped up. There's got to be better responses to this. We cannot let this happen again. And this time we are talking about the leader of the free world, the President of the United States, the new President of the United States. And there is a known terroristic threat in the name of QAnon. And so right now, at this very moment, preparations are in the works. Intelligence is being gathered. Social media is being combed through. And suspects and persons of interest are being put into dossiers. Facial recognition software is installed and ready to go. The cameras are up and running. And so when these people show up in Washington, if they do, they're going to be watched every step of the way. They are going to be the ant under the microscope. And if they so much as flinched in the wrong direction, their ass is grass. It should have happened at the Capitol, but it certainly is going to happen at the inauguration. Now, I don't know what Donald Trump is going to be doing on January 20th. I don't know if he's going to hold another one of his idiotic rallies, or if he's going to be on a military transport going to Scotland. He won't be doing that because they don't want him over there. They already said, don't even think about coming over here. I don't care if you have a golf course here or not. You ain't coming here. So I don't know where the hell he's going. He'll probably go to Florida. Temporarily, at least, because they don't want him down there either. Nobody wants this guy. You know, maybe he could move to Texas and live next door to Ted Cruz. That'd be fun. Or some of these other people. Some of these people that supported Mr. Trump. Maybe you got a spare bedroom you can let him have. Or, you know, give him 10 acres of your property. Let him build a compound there. There's enough billionaires out there that support this clown. They could probably figure out a place to put him. I can't wait to see what they do with the Trump Library. That ought to be interesting. You know, I'm fed up. I kept my political points of views at a minimum throughout this whole thing, because the whole purpose of this channel had nothing to do with politics. It had to do with these idiots that support QAnon and claim that they're third from the president and all that. But that's over and done with, because what I saw happen to the Capitol made me angry. And if it had been Antifa that pulled these stunts, I would be just as mad. Because that is a symbol of our freedom there. It's a symbol of what makes this country what it is. It's what makes this country unique. It's a pinnacle of freedom. It's a symbol of freedom. It's a monument to freedom. And these hooligans, these thugs, these traitors to our country desecrated it. They turned this country into a joke. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the joke is on them. I want the book thrown at them. And Donald Trump is going to pay. Going to pay big, because at noon on January 20th, 2021, Donald J. Trump will be a private citizen subject to the laws of a private citizen. There are at least 21 potential charges against Citizen Trump and his family and others around him. There will be no more pardons. There will be no more get out of jail free cards. The jig is up. You're going down, mister. And you're going to go down hard. And it is likely that a week from today, that Donald J. Trump will not be President of the United States. He will be impeached and removed from office. And that for 1 week, Mike Pence will be President of the United States. He will serve the shortest term of a president in U.S. history. He will be that little footnote in history. And with that second impeachment, and this time a hard and fast impeachment, Donald J. Trump will never be allowed to run for public office again. He won't be able to be so much as a dog catcher, because he's been impeached. No matter how badly people want him in office, he will not be able to run. I don't know if he could be appointed as an ambassador or anything like that, but he cannot run for political office, an elected office. Can't run. He's done. He can go write a book. He can go start a movement. Whatever he wants to do. But he's never, ever going to be president of the United States again. That's done for. Maybe he could go run for the president of Russia. He likes Russia so much, he can go over there and run for the president of Russia. That'd be interesting. Now, I don't care if a Republican runs and wins in 2024. I really don't. But I certainly hope the next president of the United States, if it's not Biden, it will be someone who will act like a president of the United States and not the star of a reality show. We should never, ever again see the kind of crap that we saw these past 4 years. Absolutely, positively nothing got done. Nothing. Bunch of mundane things that anyone could have done. I could have gone to Washington and did what Trump did, and probably done a better job of it. Anybody could. You gotta remember, there was a revolution in Europe. And who became president of that country? A dock worker, a guy that loaded boats. He ran the country. He wasn't a millionaire that had buildings all over the world with his name on them. He didn't have jet airplanes, Rolls Royces, or anything like that. He loaded boats. And he successfully ran that country. Led a revolution took it away from communism and ran that country. Study history. It's kind of interesting. A guy that loaded boats did a better job than a guy that claimed to be a multi-billionaire who turned out to be nothing. Let that be a lesson to you. Maybe we ought to have more construction workers, dock workers, truck drivers, waiters, waitresses in government, instead of these millionaires, billionaires. Because that's the problem here. You know, at least Joe Biden grew up knowing what it's like to be in the working class. Donald Trump has no idea what it's like to be in the working class. He didn't need wine for nothing. He had everything. He not only had a silver spoon, he had a gold spoon. And the same with all these other people out there. They're all wealthy. But because of the way this country works, I doubt we'll ever see a waitress, waiter, truck driver, warehouse worker, even a pilot being in the highest office of the land. Now, we came close with Kamala Harris. She grew up, modest means, was a prosecutor. She worked her way up. Woman of color. First one to be vice president of the United States. That's astonishing. That's something I never thought I would see. Instead of Hillary Clinton being the first president of the United States, we have the first vice president of the United States, which is a woman of color and a former prosecutor. Not a wealthy business person with yachts, airplanes, and their names all over buildings on the planet. Kind of refreshing. You may not like her politics, you may not like Joe's politics, but at least we got people in office that understand us. And this is something these QAnons don't seem to get through their thick head. That we have a president-elect that's going to be taken over in January 20th who understands us. He's been there. He was part of the working class. He worked his way up to become president of the United States. The American dream. And you want to tear that down for the Wizard of Oz, for a fake millionaire that cares for nobody else but himself. And if that wasn't obvious today, then there's no getting through it, your thick heads. The guy says, "Oh, I'm not going to go to the party. They don't like me. So I'm going to stay home and play golf." Throwing a temper tantrum like a little brat. That's our current president. And the so-called famous leader of this QAnon group kind of sums it up with this picture. Dressed up in a Halloween costume with bull horns out of his head. There's supposed to be a Viking, I guess. A blithering idiot. Face painted up, all these weird tattoos on him. And he got accused of being Antifa. The joke is on him. I thought that was funny. Even I know who this guy is. He's very well known in QAnon circles. And he got accused of being Antifa. He got accused of being a paid actor. I laughed my ass off. I said, "You fucking idiot." You said, your own people don't even know who you are. You know, I'm a retired truck driver from Florida. I know who you were. I've known who you were since you started out. And you get accused of being Antifa. A guy that's hobnobbed with all the top brass. Picture of him with Rudy Giuliani, for Christ's sake. Guy's a frickin' lawyer. And he gets labeled as a paid actor for Antifa. That's how stupid these people are. That's how blind they are. They don't want to see the reality that what happened in Washington was done by Q. There were QAnons all over the place. There were QAnon flags, there were QAnon t-shirts, QAnon hats, QAnon all over. And yet you want to give the credit to Antifa, to your enemy, because you know that you screwed up. You know that you made a huge mistake. You know that you made a mistake that's going to get a lot of your QAnons put in jail for 10 years at a minimum. And somebody killed a cop. So you're all contributing to the death of a cop with your support of QAnon. Whether you went to Washington or not, if you blog in favor of QAnon or any of these other groups, then you support the killing of a cop. No getting around it. You can't say, oh, I'm sorry the cop got killed, but I still support. No. If you support QAnon, if you support what happened at that Capitol, then you support the killing of a cop. It's that simple. It's called guilt by association. You're either for the rule of law in this country or you're not. If you don't like the president, the vice president, the congressman, you go out, you either run for office or you campaign for somebody you like. You don't go and destroy a building simply because you don't like the guy that got elected. That's not the way this country works. It's not the way this country should work. There were 60 court cases that said that everything was above board, it was secure, it was legal. It may not have been perfect, but there were enough votes there for Joe Biden to win this election. You lost the damn game. There's no replay. There's no going back in the booth and watching the replay to see if the umpire made the right call. The game is over. The trophy's been handed out. Everybody go home, prepare for the next game. Simple as that. You got 4 years to come up with somebody you like better than Joe Biden. Somebody that people will vote for. So get to work. Don't go around breaking things, breaking into buildings, causing riots, and killing policemen. Because it's only going to make matters worse. Because I guarantee you, enough people are mad right now at what happened at the Capitol that come November of 2022, a lot of Republicans are going to be looking for work. That those Republicans in Congress who are lawyers better get certified by their respective bar associations or start getting their lobbying credentials in order or something, because they will no longer be a congressman and they will no longer be a senator, because they condone the kind of nonsense that happened at that Capitol, either directly or indirectly. And they condone it even after the riots were over. You know, it's frustrating that there isn't somebody out there with a big voice to get this message out there. I'm just a small YouTube channel. I have very little impact. Matter of fact, I have virtually no impact. All I'm doing is expressing my point of view to maybe a few people that agree with me, a whole bunch that do not. I'm just a pebble on a huge beach. But maybe somebody out there with the power and the influence can start getting the message out that we need to grow up and exercise a little common sense in this country. And we need to start acting like citizens of a country that we are. We are those of us who were born in this United States, or those of us who are naturalized citizens of this United States, obligated to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States, to obey the laws of the United States, to respect the laws of the United States, not go around storming the center of our government, destroying things, breaking things, stealing things, and killing law enforcement officers. We can't have that if this country is going to survive. We have got to get things under control, and the way to do it is quit listening to propaganda generated by the supporters of QAnon. QAnon needs to go in the trash heap of obscurity. We need to throw it away like yesterday's trash. They need to be ignored. Those responsible for criminal actions need to be put in jail. This has got to stop. So until then, this is William K. Murtaugh, Mart Witness 1. Have a good one. Something serious that could endanger life and property may occur down the road, caused either directly or indirectly because of this individual. Now, a lesson should be learned from the Christmas bombing. The guy who is alleged or apparently has been found to have caused the bombing was an elusive idiot. He was a recluse. He hated cops. He had concerns about 5G technology, about the government using 5G to spy on you and other things. A thing very much echoed by the conspiracy nut from Minnesota. The conspiracy nut from Minnesota actually went to a construction site where a 5G tower was being built. As I mentioned in my prior presentations, this happened around the time where there was a lot of talk about 5G technology. People were burning these towers, destroying them, making threats against employees who were installing 5G transponders and so forth. And so the similarities are strikingly there. That this individual from Nashville and this individual from Minnesota were espousing the same baseless conspiracy theories, as were the group of people around the conspiracy theorist. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories that are being talked about by these individuals. And there are ordinary citizens that are the targets of these reclusive idiots. People who are not guilty of anything other than trying to function in life, earn a living, tend to their families, and would prefer to be left alone. Something that these reclusive idiots seem incapable of doing. And now we have someone who has made it clear in the past that he is armed, running around the country, that is, if he's still alive, doing who knows what, plotting who knows what, and plotting with who, we don't know. Now, I had a rather intriguing conversation last night with someone who claims to either be him or someone associated with him. And I asked a simple question through this long conversation. Can you show proof of life of this man being alive? And the conversation abruptly ended at that point. Because the one subject that seems to be off limits is proving that the man is still alive. That the man who has been out of sight and off the internet for 6 months refuses to get on camera and show the public that he's still alive. That the only thing you hear about this person with his name on it are written articles on blogs and repeats of former recordings that this individual made years ago. Nothing new, nothing current. Just old repeats. So the question remains, is this man still alive? And if he's still alive, what the hell is he doing? Why is he being elusive? Why is he in hiding? And if you go back and you look at what this man was doing prior to his disappearance, he was stalking cell towers. He was talking about the dangerous 5G technology. He was talking about people he claims were kidnapping children, sacrificing the children in these satanic rituals, drinking their blood, farming them for chemicals, and all sorts of bizarre things. He pronounced people guilty of crimes with absolutely no proof, except perhaps a recording of a woman under the influence of drugs who later recanted her testimony, said that the testimony was altered, distorted, out of context. And who simply made things up out of thin air and continues to make things up out of thin air and keeps putting people's safety and health at risk every day with his rantings. Now, today, there are articles circulating that it was known a year ago that the RV bomber was making explosives. It's been known for a long time that this individual had outlandish opinions about 5G technology and that he had been a cop hater for quite a long time. And there was not so much as a recording made of the fact that this man was a possible person of interest, that he should be on the radar, that local, state, and federal law enforcement should have had a file on this guy tucked away in case something like the Nashville bombing happened, so that they could immediately go through the files and find someone who had some kind of beef with society in one form or another that went to an extreme, dangerous level. And this man who lived 10 miles from the site of the bombing may have been able to be stopped a lot earlier. A man who pretty well made it known that he was going to be remembered by the city of Nashville forever. That he was intending to do something that is going to make his place in history, so to speak. And the bombing happened. Fortunately, nobody but the bomber was killed. But a lot of damage was done to property. A lot of damage was done to the lives of people. And the health and safety of law enforcement officers and the residents of the area were put at risk. This could have been a disaster of monumental proportions had not the person made the warning tape and warned people to get the hell out of there before he blew everything to Kingdom Come. So we have to wonder if another warning is going to go unheeded, and at some time in the future, this elusive, unemployed individual driving around in a car full of junk, making up all these fantastical conspiracy theories, calling people satanic ritual performers or what have you, fish people, reptile people, criminals, domestic terrorists, suspected pedophiles, and so on. Is he putting these people's lives in danger? Are these people in fear of their lives due to the rantings of this idiot and those around him? We already have examples of what can happen when these people go unheeded. A man who is part of their group, who actually had the same beliefs and theories and so on and so forth, got himself murdered as a result of his actions because he made promises he couldn't keep. Chris Hallett, who knows absolutely nothing about the law, made up all kinds of things that didn't make sense. And a woman believed him, took his advice, and found herself in a much worse situation than she would have had she simply taken some common sense steps in an attempt to resolve her dispute with CPS. And because of the failure of Chris Hallett to fulfill his promise to the woman, she killed him, murdered him, executed him. And now her life is turned upside down. She's facing prison for the rest of her life. She is never going to see her children again, except maybe behind a glass window. And that's it. And another woman is on trial in Colorado next month, or in February. Same thing. She got involved with these people. The people failed her. People made her situation worse. And now she is going to pay the price for their actions. And what is next? What damage is this crackpot from Minnesota going to instill on other people? Because he convinces them that he's something that he is not. He convinces them that he is third in line to the President of the United States, soon to be former President of the United States. That he is part of this all-important organization based out of Florida who fights terrorism and so on and so forth. An organization he knows nothing about, that he misstates their mission, as it were. He is no part of this organization. He is no part of anything that has to do with the United States government. He is, at best, a vigilante. A know-nothing vigilante. A dangerous vigilante. He is taking the law into his own hands, as are those around him, and they are going to cause unnecessary harm to the public at large. And unfortunately, while law enforcement may recognize them for what they are, they do not consider them dangerous enough at the moment to do anything about their actions. And the social media providers, YouTube, Twitter, BitChute, Parler, so forth, don't seem to understand that they are enabling some very dangerous people and giving them the ability to do very dangerous things. All these corporate giants seem to be concerned with is making money. And so they give these dangerous crackpots a platform in which to plan out and eventually execute their criminal actions. And people needlessly suffer for this act of ineptitude on the part of the social media corporate world. Now, I have talked a bit before about Section 230, which is supposed to give these corporate giants liability protections from the acts of these dangerous individuals. President Trump, for his own reasons, wants this protection lifted completely. And I'm waiting for it, because I will personally file a lawsuit against BitChute, Twitter, and Parler, among other social media platforms, for damages. I will seek injunctive relief, as well thousands of others, because these social media platforms allow these kind of dangerous people to plot out their dangerous actions and to incite people to carry these actions out. Now, there is no telling what influenced the Nashville bomber. Did he read on QAnon about the claims that had been made about 5G? Perhaps he got the idea from someplace. It's unlikely that he just sat in his living room one day and decided, oh, these 5G towers are spying on people. I'm going to go down and blow up a building in downtown Nashville. No, he read QAnon stuff more than likely, or some other stuff, where these conspiracy nuts were running around saying that 5G was this great evil, that it was responsible for COVID, that it was a method of spying on us, and all sorts of weird theories from these crackpots. And it turned this elusive nut into a dangerous crackpot. A dangerous crackpot that went out and spent a year experimenting with bombs, loading up his RV to the brim with enough explosives to destroy a 1 mile length or more of downtown Nashville, Tennessee, and to damage a highly fortified transmission center belonging to AT&T. And another thing that should have been given warning is the fact that this man had threatened violence before that. He had guns in the house, and that the woman he was living with wanted the guns out of the house. And she called the police. And this is how the accusation that he was making bombs in his RV came about. And it was a man's own lawyer who went to the police. And the lawyer recognized that his client was in such bad shape that he had no choice but to go to the authorities. That happens to be part of the oath he takes when he's a lawyer. So he did what he was supposed to do. And the cops that this man hated so much didn't do a damn thing about it. They said there wasn't enough there. They couldn't do anything. But they didn't put him on any kind of a watch. They didn't patrol the area. They didn't keep an eye on him. Nothing. A folder was made of the incident, shoved in a file cabinet somewhere, and forgotten about. Until the bombing. Until people started looking into what made this man tick, what may have caused him to go over the edge. And this police report was found about this guy making bombs in his house. And that he started making statements, giving things away, houses of all things, and cars, leaving cryptic notes about something in the basement or behind plywood or other mysterious clues to be given to those who are going to survive him. This was not something that was spur of the moment. This is something that had been planned for a long, long time, months, perhaps years, that this man was going to kill himself in a spectacular fashion. He was going to blow himself up in downtown Nashville. Just another reclusive screwball. And then we go back to this elusive screwball. Either dead and forgotten, or alive, but mysteriously off the grid. Mysteriously going who knows where, doing who knows what, planning who knows what. Will this man from Minnesota turn up someplace to do something where history will remember him forever? That people will know his name, speak of his name, because he did something so spectacular that the public had to pay attention. Something just as spectacular, if not more than spectacular, than a man blowing himself up inside an RV in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. Or will the warnings about this man finally be heeded, this time, by those who are capable of doing something to prevent what may be another RV bombing type incident? Time will tell. We're going to have to stay tuned and see. In the meantime, this is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. Happy New Year. See you next year. And see you next mobile time. William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. To all of you, have a good one.